Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of the Lumen Project. I'm your co-host, Chris Angel, here with our host, Jeff Bernheisel. What's up, Jeff?
Hello, hello.
We were just having a conversation before hitting record, and some juicy stuff today. I might just start with this. If you listening to this are somebody who has life all figured out, this probably is not your podcast for you. I think Jeff and I are creating a conversation and a community for guys who are on the path of, I'll use the word enlightenment. I don't know if that's your word, Jeff, but continuing to expand our awareness and our consciousness for what life is and what it's inviting us into. And so if that's you, then this probably would be a conversation you'd be interested in. So.
Yeah. Enlightenment is a word that my simple mind wouldn't probably use in a conversation, but that is the feeling. And for me, I would, I'm trying to figure stuff out. Like that's kind of how, when I'm talking to somebody, I'm like, hey, we're on the path to enlightenment. We're all just trying to figure stuff out as we go the best we can.
That's a good way to say enlightenment, to figure stuff out. I like that. And not enlightenment like we've reached utopia and we are all ascended masters, but like enlightenment, like we're shining light, we're adding light to the path we're walking so we can figure things out. Yeah, I like that.
Yep. Yeah, my simple little hamster wheel up here.
Nice.
But that's where I'm at. And I mean, to get everybody else up to speed, I don't even know where to start and go back. But for the last month or two, I've been feeling this anxiety bubble. I've got drama in various places that I'm dealing with, and I have not been feeling myself. I've been trying to figure out what's wrong. I'm trying to fix it. Mm-hmm. So Chris and I were talking, and it was like, so I feel like I'm, fighting the universe. And a lot of friends, family members, they're telling me, like, just let it go. What's that? It's there's like a Disney movie where she sings like "Let It Go."
Yeah. Frozen.
Frozen. Yeah, Frozen. Yeah. So they're just saying, let it go with the flow. See where life takes you. See what happens. The universe is going to take care of you no matter what. And you said it. We're like, that's a great sound clip. That's a great sound bite. Sounds awesome. It's way easier said than done, because the manly man inside of me is like, well, you need to fix this. You got, there's work drama, we can fix it. There's life drama, we can fix it. Relationship drama, we can fix it. We're fixers.
Yeah.
And the funny story I was going to tell you was, years ago, I was in a relationship and we worked at the same company. And I think I've mentioned this in one of our other calls, but we were at the same company, we worked in different divisions. So when we would go hang out and, go home after work or whatever, I'm always the person that's like, hey, hey babe, how was your day? Did you have a good day? Whatever it may be. And, she would start in with, oh, this happened and this happened and this so-and-so did this and whatever. And I'm in that like fix it mode.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, easy fix for me. Like I worked in the corporate, like my job actually at the time was to travel around to our different divisions and fix things.
Yeah.
And so, she would come to me with these problems and tell me all about these issues. And I would just be like, well, that's an easy fix. Just do this, 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 and this. And after a while, we got into a pretty good heated argument one day. And she was like, you always come to me with answers and you'd have these easy fixes. And she's like, sometimes I just need you to listen to me. I don't want you to fix my problems. And I'm like, me being me, I'm like, well, why do you tell me your problems then? Like, my job literally is to fix them. Like, outside of being a boyfriend and a man and a protector and all of those things, like we are wired to do that anyways. But my actual job at the company that we both work for is to fix this shit. And so I kind of had to take a step back and be like, she's right. But my ask of her, I said, okay, babe, I recognize you're right, and I apologize. What I need you to do is and what I'm going to ask of you when you come to me, because there were other times when, this is where the confusing part happens. Men, women, Miss Mars, all that stuff, right? So other times she'd come to me and she'd tell me problems, and then I'd be like, cool. And she was like, well, what she'd get mad because I didn't have a solution. And
right.
So I'm like, here's what I need to do for my own sanity is, if you come to me and you start doing this, I'm probably going to stop you and say, babe, Do you need me to just listen as a boyfriend, or do you need a solution as, something outside of that? And that seemed to actually work pretty well
Mm,
for quite a while.
mm,
But in the beginning, it was, yeah, I was like, man, I don't know. Like, should I help you? Should I not help you? Like, I think we are wired to try to fix things in the way my brain works, especially was,
yeah.
you have a problem, I have a pretty easy solution, I'm just going to tell you how to do it, and you can take that and run with it, or I can help you do it, or whatever it may be. But and it's funny because it goes kind of back to our community and what we've tried to build here, which is, if somebody comes to us with a problem, I don't want to stand in front of you and say, here's how you fix it.
Mm, mm. Yeah, good point. Yeah.
I should ask you, do you just need space? Do you just want me to listen? I think that's what a good coach,
Yeah.
good friend, a good lover, everybody should operate that way. So if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I need advice, I have a problem, whatever,
Yeah.
do you want my advice? Do you just need me to listen? And what does that look like? And as long as you're both on the same plane there, I
Yeah.
think everything should be good.
Yeah. Right. Right.
I
Yeah,
was
I
on a
know.
different.
I know. I'm annoyed when guys just start throwing solutions out at me, especially when I didn't even ask for it. Right? I might just share. Like, I'm part of the way I post on social is just to share from my life and things I'm learning. And it's funny, every now and then the algorithm has curated people who are play pretty well on my content, but every now and then there'll be somebody who throws it, some dude who throws in some comment that's like, oh, you just got to do whatever, as if he's mastered life and has all the answers. And I'm like, shut up. Like, don't even try to like insert your your solutions into my
Yep,
post. It's
I
not even why I'm posting.
get a lot of that too. I
Funny.
actually saw one the other day on yours, and I almost sent you a message and said, like, who the hell is this? Is this like a friend of yours or something? Because he was kind of a dick.
Uh-huh.
Like, I get it a lot. I get a lot of personal, like, private messages. And I want to say, like, I've asked for it over the years, like the stories that I've told with dating and like, I've been a very open book.
Yeah.
Uh, and now, I'm starting to have, and this goes back to what you said in the very beginning, like, I'm starting to figure things out and try to figure things out and go down that path of enlightenment, if we want to call it that. And the conversations that I'm having with the world and with myself are drastically different. and
Yeah.
and I don't know that a lot of people are ready for those types of questions and statements from
Mm,
us.
mm,
You're really good at it, where you're just like, here's what I'm feeling and here's what I'm going through today.
mm.
And that, like, freaks some people out, I think. And then
Yeah.
they're only, it's like a defense mechanism where they're like, well, here's what you need to do.
Right. That's
and
good. Yeah.
uh,
Total defense mechanism.
and it's pretty funny to me that that does happen. And I get, I get my fair share of it. And maybe I think I get a lot of them sent as private messages, which is funnier to me because it's like people don't want to chime in. They don't want
Yeah.
my response to be public, whatever it may be. I don't know.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, if I don't know the person, and this is where I'm being a lot more careful. I'm curating different, like, I'm deleting a lot of people out of my Facebook and social media, because
Hmm.
before this was all, in the real estate space, I traveled all over the country and I'd meet people at conferences and I'd go
Yeah.
speak and do whatever. And I just kind of realized, I've got 5,000 or whatever Facebook friends,
Hmm.
and I'd say probably like 2,000 of them are people that I don't really know.
Yeah.
We just connected somewhere at some point, and really lately, as when I get comments like that, if it's from somebody and my first instinct is, who is that? I
Yeah.
just go and I immediately unfriend and delete the person.
Uh-huh.
And I'm like, I've probably, I'm clearly, if I don't know who you are, I don't need you in my life, which is kind of a harsh thing to say, but it's true. Like, I don't need your opinion. I don't need you weighing in and giving me advice, and I don't need your negative attitude. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
if it's somebody that I do know, typically I'll listen. And, like, I have some amazing friends that have given me awesome advice over the years, just through Facebook, that I met at a conference that I've stayed in touch with or whatever. And
Mm.
they know me well enough. They've followed my
Yeah.
story over the years with everything that I've been through. And I mean, I've had people reach out just the other day, I got a phone call, which kind of blew my mind because like, who calls somebody anymore for stuff like this?
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, just out of the blue, I got a phone call from I would say long lost friend that I haven't talked to in quite a while. And he was just like, "Are you good?"
Hmm.
And something, I had posted something on Facebook about how I feel this bubble of anxiety in the universe. And I didn't mean it in a negative way. What I was saying was like, I'm being tested. This is how I feel like I'm being tested in so many ways right now that whatever the universe has in store for me must be massive, because I just feel like there's this
Yeah.
whatever it is coming is
Mm.
big. And I didn't mean that in a like necessarily a negative way, but I think he read it like
Mm.
that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
he called me and was like, "Are you good?
Mm.
I'm like moderately worried about you." And I'm like, "No, I'm good. Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
dealing with some life stuff, but nothing like
Yeah.
nothing too crazy." And he was like, "Oh," but I had to tell him, I'm like, "Hey, I appreciate it.
Mm. Mm.
Like some of my best friends here in town that I talk to all the damn time, and
Mhm.
that we get those blinders on us too, because when we're with the people all of the time,
Yeah.
they don't know all my deep dark secrets, but
Yeah.
a lot of my good friends do, and but they're the ones you kind of it's kind of like you forget to check in on them every
Yeah.
once in a while. So I thought that was kind of cool. And like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
said, he called me, and most people just text or
Mhm.
Facebook. I get a lot of Facebook
Mhm.
messages and texts and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
in my
I-
first, it's funny because the first instant I got when the phone rang, I was like, I'm kind of like, oh, something's wrong. Like, why is he calling me? Something must be wrong.
Mm.
Actually, the other way around. He was calling me because he thought something was wrong.
Yeah. Huh. I think there's something here too under the fixing with the fixing thing, that is like there's the fixing that we I think we're wired for as men. I was, until I sort of trained myself out of it. Um but then there's that fixing something with ourselves, and I think that's worth just touching on briefly in this episode, because we're talking about fixing stuff. And I think if you're wired to constantly fix things, or you get some juice fixing things, right? Like it makes you feel important or productive or something, like, I
Yeah.
fixed it, that when you turn that energy toward yourself and life puts you in a pattern or a situation where you don't know how to fix it, and you rush off to try to fix it, like I think you can end up missing some of the lessons. Like that saying, like the energy that got you here isn't the energy that's going to get you there, or whatever, like what got you here won't get you there. Like you as a man on a path of evolving, you being a fixer for most of your life isn't the energy that's gonna take you to the next iteration of yourself. And the other challenge with fixing is that if you're always fixing, you're always looking for something broken. And so it's harder to be present with just what is, because you're just always trying to fix something. Speaking from experience, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I agree. It's I was always like what I would call like a super high performance employee, a super high performance friend,
Yeah.
lover, whatever. Like in my life, I was always that sounded
Super high performance lover.
but like in my relationships, I was always, you know,
Yeah.
that guy. And I was that guy for a really, really long time. And not to say I enjoyed it. It was my identity, I guess is the best way I could
Sure. Yeah.
describe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so when you're the guy that everybody around you comes to whenever they need anything, that's
Mhm.
kind of how I always felt. Back then it wasn't necessarily in a bad way, because that was my identity, and I thrived on that.
Yeah.
I traveled all over the place
Yeah.
helping people solve their problems, and that felt good.
Yeah.
And and doing that for so long, and I did that for so long because I had this other dream and this other plan. And so I did that for so long, and I built up the income that I needed and the money I needed, and I went and did this other thing, which is the whiskey bar that I've talked to about
Yeah.
every other episode we've been in probably.
Mhm.
But when that crashed and burned for about a year, maybe two,
Mhm.
that identity was just gone, right? Like all of a
Yeah.
sudden I'm depressed, I'm sad, I'm depressed,
Mhm.
I'm broke because I lost so much fucking money.
Yeah.
Uh, and that got really dark. And that was where
Mhm.
the idea for this group blossomed from eventually. But what happened was, as I was sitting there trying to figure out what I needed to do to fix it, I'm sitting there going, how do I get old Jeff back? Like that
Mm,
guy was awesome.
mm, mm,
Everybody loved him. He got shit done. He just killed it at life.
mm,
How do I get that back? And that was the mindset that I had for quite a while. And I
mm,
kept trying. I kept trying. I'm like, what do I need to do? What do I need to do?
mm,
We've talked about this before. Like I was buying self-help courses. I was buying marketing courses. I was buying all sorts of shit,
mhm.
thinking like, oh, this is just the next thing I need to do to like
Yeah.
I know, my mojo is going to come back and this is
Yeah.
going to be the
Yep.
thing. And it never was. And I mean,
Yep.
2 years of doing that. And and I remember I posted about it on Facebook. It's funny how we like everything. Let's see, everything revolves around stuff that we post on Facebook and conversations around Facebook. Like it's so built in these days.
Yeah. Right.
It's kind of scary. Uh, but I posted something about on Facebook. This is just my thoughts, getting it out there. Where I'm like, how do I get old Jeff back? Posed that question. Said, this is why, and I'm just not feeling it these days. And one of my longtime friends from high school, she chimed in and was like, why do you want old Jeff back? She's like, new Jeff's pretty awesome. Like
Mm,
maybe you're right where you're supposed to be, and don't worry about it.
right.
And I'm like, no, because old Jeff was way more awesome, and I need to fix things, and I need to get back to the way I was before. And
Right.
the more I have thought about that over the years, it's been a couple of years now, and the more we've talked, and I've
Yep.
gone down this path of everything that we're doing,
Yep.
she was right. Like I am right where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
If I feel that. Um, and I don't need to go back to that old me, because
Right.
the new me is pretty awesome and I'm still good at all the same things.
Yeah.
I may not be as young and spry as I was back then, but that, beyond that, that was a lot of fucking work. Doing that and grinding and doing all this stuff, like it
Yeah.
mentally broke me down when that happened. I can't say I had a mental breakdown. Maybe I did. I don't know, but I don't think I did. Uh, we cried a couple times and like I lost all my money and all that sadness and stuff.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, coming out of it, I was like, here I am. I'm still alive. I'm still right where I'm supposed to be. I'm here helping other people
Mm,
with the experiences I've gone through. And that's where I'm feeling like today, right now,
mm,
is the last few months have been what one of my friends called she's like, you're growing. You're growing into that next phase of who you're going to be and who you need to be and who you're being called to be.
it's
And that
good.
growth always hurts.
Mm,
It's like growing as a teenager where you hit that growth spurt and you're like, my ribs hurt, whatever. She's
yeah.
like, so when the universe is stretching you and you
Hmm.
feel like that, like I feel right now, she's like, that's a growth phase coming. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what I meant by that Facebook post when I'm like, I feel this coming
Yep.
and whatever the universe has in store for me is going to be big.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what I meant by that, was that
Yeah.
that growth is happening and it is painful. And you said it the other day when you're like, coming out of that is going to make me a better person and able to help even more people,
Mm, mm.
because I've now gone through something crazy like that, but in my mind
Yeah.
for no reason. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. You and I have talked about spiral dynamics in the past, just a little bit, but it's basically looks at the evolution of consciousness. And I think, and this is just me using my own intuition and sense of things, but I think that collectively in humans, there is an awakening happening. Like people are seeing the limits to old systems, and so old systems are breaking down. I think part of the whole purpose of having the Lumen Project is there are certain containers or conversations about what it used to mean to be a man, but even those definitions are breaking down because it's too limiting. And so collectively there is an awakening happening, and this very thing that you're describing, like our ability to not to just to believe that I am right where I'm supposed to be, and to in some ways, find some balance in a posture of surrender, to not have to fix it all or be in control of everything, is the evolving of the masculine, of men. Like, there is an evolving way that we're becoming a better version of ourselves as men. We don't need to go back to the old version of men where we're, pounding our chest and flexing our muscles. That there is a new iteration of what it is to be a man and to be productive in a way that is fun and enjoyable. It doesn't have to be fixing and hustling and grinding, but it's gonna, but to your, kind of to the thing you're describing, I feel like when you choose to do that, when you choose to lean into some surrender and some being okay with what is right now, it will blow your worldview apart. Like, everything you thought, you'll be like, it's uncomfortable. The reason it's uncomfortable and painful is because you don't know how to orient yourself. You're like, everything I used to do to make it make sense doesn't work in this new space.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was alluding to earlier, where I was like, I feel lost.
Yep.
And God, I couldn't imagine having a family with me to like go through this,
Right.
like to go through this process. I mean, it's like they would either think I'm nuts, or I don't know. It's just that would be a lot of weight. Like that would amplify the negative thoughts in our heads, in my head at least. Like, am I good enough for them? Am I providing enough for them? That kind of stuff. And like,
Yeah.
being lost is hard enough on your own. And it's funny because
Yeah.
this sounds counterintuitive to me, and I'm about to say it out loud for the first time, so we'll see. But like, being lost when you're alone is hard, but I think being lost when you have people with you and around you seems like it would be way harder.
Well, I'll just speak to that for those that are married and have kids, because I have both. I'm married and I have
Right.
kids, and I think the it I first of all, I agree with that. I think that could be really hard, because you would want to hide if who your family knows you as is the one that's all put together and is, the steady, stable person of whatever, that it could really rock your world. What I would add, though, is that depending on how you, and I think that would cause a lot of men to hide.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I think suicide could be a big issue, right? If mental health is an issue for men, because men are not invited or encouraged to process, where are you going to go? Where would you go? You don't want to say this to your spouse. You don't want to share it with your kids. And so, but it's okay. So that said, I would just say, like, your kids are more resilient than and that's actually a good thing. Like, as I've gone through my different dark nights of the soul, it's really opened up some interesting conversations with my kids. Like, when I realized that I didn't, who I was as a father was not someone who had to have it all figured out, but was somebody who was going first through a dark night of the soul, so that I could model for my kids what it's like to go through a dark night of the soul and then talk to them about it. Then I got to redeem that dark night of the soul. I got to be like, see, this isn't Chris being weak for them. This is Chris going first for them, and then being able to have a conversation with them. And so if there is anybody listening that's like, that's exactly why I don't want to say anything, because I don't want it to hurt them or have them think differently of me. It's actually an opportunity to show them what it is to be a human,
Mm-hmm.
on a path of growth and expansion and enlightenment. But
Yeah.
it's gonna come with some dark night of the soul, because like I said, it blows your worldview apart.
Yes, it does.
The rules are different.
Yeah, and it sucks to have to try to fit in and play by the old rules, to be
Yeah.
honest. I think that's where
Yeah.
that's what I'm feeling right now, is like I'm ready to go play a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, that's true, dude. Because then pretty soon everything's really uncomfortable, because everybody's playing an old game, and you're like, I don't want to play this game anymore.
Mm-hmm. And that
Mhm.
sounds cheesy and it sounds almost egotistical to say, but when you feel like I graduated that way
Yeah.
of thinking. I
Yeah.
graduated from hanging out with those friends. Like,
Yeah.
that's a shitty feeling to a certain degree, but then when you realize it's because you are growing and you're moving forward, and that doesn't mean you're leaving them behind and you're never going to revisit,
Yeah.
your past life or whatever. But
Yeah. Yeah.
and that was a really, really hard thing for me to wrap my head around, and it's taken several people. And the interesting part is, I think I told you last week, like, different people in different areas of my life have all come together and kind of given me the same advice without knowing
Hmm.
each
Yeah.
other,
Right.
without knowing the whole story of what I'm going through and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's blowing my mind lately, is because I'm like,
Mm.
all right,
Mm.
I've got these 3 or 4 people that are very, very, very in tune with
Yeah.
stuff, the universe, whatever you want to call it, and they can pick up on it instantly. And they're like, well, here's what you're going through, and here's why. And
Mm-hmm.
my the hypnotherapist and all of the stuff that I've been
Yep.
experimenting and exploring,
Yeah.
and they're like, you're all saying the same things, and that's
Uh-huh.
crazy to me. Like,
Right.
how does that even happen?
Yeah. Right.
It's actually super scary. I met a totally random person in the last few weeks, in the sense of, she just moved up here from California and doesn't know a damn thing about me. And we started talking, and she calls them synchronicities. So these
Yeah. Yeah.
synchronicities keep happening, and I mean, the shit is mind blowing. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is me. This is me going, oh, the universe just put her in my life for a really, really, really important reason, because she's telling me stuff about me that
Mm.
she doesn't know. But she
Yeah.
and she's not like telling me, but
Mm-hmm.
she'll be telling me a story, and I'll be like, what? That's crazy, because
Mm.
this happened. And she's like, she's doing the same thing. We're doing the same thing to each other.
Yeah.
And we're both just like,
Mm.
this is
Wow.
crazy.
Mm.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
anyway.
Some would say magical. Some would say amazing. And I think the logical brain, this is probably another important piece just to add here, is for a lot of years, when I was a younger kid, I just have a really big heart. And I had enough people take advantage of me and bully me, and that I shut that part down. And so I got really good at the intellect of things, the logic of things. And I think at some level, fixing things is a brain activity, is a logical activity.
Yep.
and and in some ways it overshadows our heart. And as men, I think we've spent a lot of time in our life not operating from our heart, but operating from our brain. And the marketplace will validate us for our brain, because the marketplace doesn't really want our heart. It wants solution, strategy, fix it, wants you to fix it. And but the whole thing about what makes life, what I would say for me, is that life has become exciting again now that I've turned some of that intellect off, and I've come back to the heart of things. I've come back to, you know, thinking it's really cool that there are synchronicities, and being like, oh my God, that is so cool. I can't even
Mhm.
explain that, and I don't need to, but like, how amazing is that? And I think it's good for men to nurture their heart, condition their heart, because we've spent so much time in our head.
Yeah. And I'm still fighting that fight, because my brain wants to figure it out. And I mean, I always attribute this. I make a joke where I'm like, my brain doesn't work that way. And I mean, on a serious note, I can say my brain doesn't work that way because, uh, like, it's not called Asperger's anymore. It's called something else, but like, form of being on the spectrum of the autism Asperger's spectrum. Like, I am ultra high in that area, and
Uh-huh.
my brain works differently than a lot of people's. And I think different things, I say things, and that's just, I've learned to live with it over the years. And
Yeah.
but it causes a lot of issues with stuff like this, because I'm like, no, I have to go figure out why,
Mm,
and I can't rest until I do.
right.
And
Yeah.
I can't turn that off. And that's I am finding that is going to be, like, it's not a downfall, but it's an annoyance for damn sure. When you recognize that it's going on, and I'm like, I can't just flip that switch. I wish I could, but
Well, this is just my own commentary about you. It's a neurodivergent, right? Like you're chemically, you're just wired differently. You think different. Like the whole thing is that's an asset in a world that all operates the same. Your ability to think differently is an asset, but you have so many years of and like 24-lane highway of neural pathway around fixing. Like what you've trained your brilliant brain to do is fix things, versus if you can just retrain your brilliant brain the other way.
Oh, it'd
It's
be
funny, I'm
crazy
hearing myself
powerful.
actually fixing something for you. I'm actually like, hey Chris, right now you're actually trying to fix something for Jeff.
But no, I mean it's
Hilarious.
true. It's 100% true. It's
That's
like,
so funny.
and the best part was I didn't know, like I didn't know this about me. You know, I grew up, say, in a sheltered, like small town, sheltered child kind of situation, and
Yeah.
then getting up here and you know becoming more aware of all of these things. And it was I mean, this had to be like 15, 20 years ago now. I was at work one day and one of the employees brought her younger brother in, and she was like, hey, I want you to hang out with my younger brother. It's, bring your brother to work day or whatever.
Hmm.
Uh, and I was like, okay, I'm 20 something at the time,
Uh-huh.
older 20 something, but I had to be like, so this had to be like 20 years ago. So I was like 25, 26 ish. And her younger brother was 15.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, why? And I'm like, I'm fucking babysitting your brother all day. Like, what the hell? And she's like, no, you'll like him. She's like, you guys are a lot alike.
Hmm.
And I was like, why do you think that? And she goes, well, he has Asperger's disease. And I didn't know what that was. And I was like, oh. Then I go look and I'm like, wait a minute.
Hmm.
So what you're saying is you want me to hang out with your brother because you think we both have Asperger's disease, basically? And she goes, well, you have a lot of similarities. And she was right. Like I hung out with
Wow.
this kid and I learned so much about myself that day
Huh.
by
Interesting.
interacting with him and talking with him. And
Wow.
it was kind of nuts. And then I went down that rabbit hole of, I was like talking to my mom and talking to my parents. And
Huh.
you know, I never went as far as like I don't need to go to the doctor to have him be like, yeah, you're a little different. Like I already know. So
Uh-huh. Yeah.
but there's all these tests you can do, and I did one of the tests and I scored like ridiculously high on
Mm.
whatever it was called.
Uh-huh.
And that was kind of like, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's why I act the way I do. That's why I react the way I do. That's why I say the things I say, all of these things. And so
Mm.
when you become self-aware of that kind of stuff, then you're like, oh, it's okay.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah.
Like it's not a bad thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
in the past I always was
Hmm.
like, one of my girlfriends was like, God, you ask why all the fucking time. And I was like, why do you say that? Like she's like, you did it again, see?
Uh-huh.
But she was right.
Mm.
I do that a lot when I'm trying to understand, and that's
Mhm.
because my brain needs to understand,
Huh.
like at a very,
Yeah.
very, very high level of like, I need to understand this
Huh.
maximally, and then I can go dissect it and fix the problem or do whatever. And
Right.
so, but it
Interesting.
was, if she would have told me that before, I would have been like, yeah, man, I don't know, maybe. But when she told me that, I was like, yeah, I do,
Mhm.
and here's why.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then she felt bad because she was like, oh my God, I didn't know that. And I'm like, well, I don't walk around going like, hi guys, I'm borderline,
Uh-huh.
whatever.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. There's so many layers, to this journey of being a man in this life, and from familial expectations, what do my spouse or my kids think, or who do I need to be for them, to career expectations, and who am I supposed to be in this job, am I supposed to be a fixer, and what are people expecting from me, and then who do I just want to be as a human being, how do I want to enjoy my life. And again, I just think the whole like fixer thing is kind of where we started, and I just think that identity as a fixer can become a real limit. Like it's cool that you can fix things, but it can become a real limit to your experiencing this life, especially if you're on the path of expansion. If you're committed to expansion, it's going to take you beyond your identity as a fixer. but
yeah, I
but I
feel
just think
that.
our culture reaffirms how much they want men to be logical fixers, at least the systems of things. Obviously, women, as we've discussed, I learned in college, don't want me to fix their problems, but
Right.
right. But
You to listen.
yeah, but the world looks at us like, produce, fix it, produce, do something. And
Yeah.
then that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it becomes our identity. Not to say I'm going to blame work, but
Yep.
like
Right. Well, that's what
my
we're
stepdad was always really good. He fixed anything, and looking up to him, there wasn't anything that dude couldn't
wow.
fix.
Wow.
And other than maybe a sour relationship with my mom, but but like in the physical world, I mean, that dude could
Right.
fix anything, and I just grew up in that environment, and so I'm that way now too. Like I can fix my cars, I can fix anything.
Wow.
But going back to what you said about fixing ourselves and me trying to fix everything that's wrong in my life right now, like I've been driving myself bonkers
Mm.
trying to do that. And all of these people that I was describing a second ago, they're all telling me to let it go, quit trying to do that. Surrender was the term you used, sort of surrender and just kind of
Yeah.
not just completely go willy-nilly and be like, well, I'm not going to do anything and just hope to God, whatever opportunity falls in my lap. Like I don't think that is
Right.
is the way we need to go, but there's that
Yeah.
in between.
Yep. Yeah. For those listening, there's a book called The Surrender Experiment. A guy out of Florida who took a company public. I made billions. I don't. His name's Michael Singer. He wrote another book called The Untethered Soul. But it's a great story. It's The Surrender Experiment is his story of how his whole life unfolded that way. And it was a lot of, you can hear the balance of trying to shut off the chatter in the brain and surrender to the moment and whatever was being created energetically, but then also doing his best in the moment for whatever life had presented him. So, clients would come to him and he'd be like, I'm going to do my best for this client. But then it wasn't a lot of strategizing. It wasn't a lot of just, anyway, it was fascinating story about the balance between surrender and doing your best for what life presents you.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I need to add
anyway,
a stack of books on my desk. I got this book the other day thinking it was just a little thin one. I think it's freaking
oh, wow, that's crazy.
470 some pages.
Yeah, chewy, big book, big book.
Yeah, it's
This has been a good conversation. We could keep going too, but I think I really like this kind of conversation where we're exploring kind of like what you and I are both noticing and experiencing, but then also how that overlaps with, I think, culturally the masculine conversation, like how men in our culture are in spaces like this. And those of you listening, like, this is the kind of conversation, the kind of inquiry that we're having in the Lumen Project. This is what we're moving through together. And again, it's not like we have the answer. We're going to gamify your life and pound our chests as we stand in the drum circle and figure things out. We're not fixing things. We're all in the journey of our life, and the benefit of the community is that we get to process it with others who are on a similar path and don't think we're batshit crazy, like other guys who are in the middle of it going like, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Yep. Trying to figure stuff out. That's
Yeah, right. I mean, because it orients yourself a little bit. If you have a couple data points in other men that are in the community, now you can kind of orient yourself to, okay, I can kind of see what I'm doing. I see what they're doing. But
yep.
anyway, any other thing to add, Jeff, today?
No, other than I mean the call out of if this is a conversation that you guys are interested in, just go to our website at thelumenproject.com and sign up.
Yep.
Send us a message, ask questions. We've got the Facebook group, which is it's purpose driven men. There's
Yep.
also the Lumen Project, like hidden Facebook group for our members.
Yeah, for our members, yeah.
But yeah, just if this is something that intrigues you,
Yeah.
touch with us.
Yeah. So good. Awesome, man. Thanks for not holding back. Thanks for being transparent and sharing.
Yeah.
You're awesome at that, and I appreciate the collaboration.
Thanks. Yeah. You as well, as always.
All right, man. We'll see you next time.